Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order if I could. Thank you for coming to the deliberative session here of the annual meeting for the Sanborn Regional School District. And if I could, we're going to have some kids from the school make the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm just going to announce their names, and our superintendent is down here with them right now. And I also, as any parent want to do, some parents would like to make a little video of that, so that's okay too. So from the Bakey Elementary, we have Alex Bashaw and Molly Bashaw and Sam Bashaw. And from Memorial, we have Jonathan Fanuf, Alisa Radovich, and Joshua Radovich. And from Sanborn Middle School, we have Tressa and Finn Blumberg. So if you guys would gather around there, and you can, if you want to get over by the mic, you could do that. That would be great. You want to, that's a wireless mic. And if you want to stand over here by the microphone and you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all rise, please? Lead us. Okay. Let's start. Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. And then we're actually singing the national anthem is going to be Sanborn Regional High School senior Lindsay Giordano. Lindsay, come on down. You all stand, please, if you would, for our anthem. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Whoa. Thank you. Thank you. Gosh, that was great. Thank you very, very much. That was wonderful. Okay. I'm going to make some introductions here first, and we'll start on right behind me here. Actually, one of the most important people, District Clerk Phyllis Kennedy. And next to her is, let's see, we have Michelle Croto. Okay, got to be right in this one. They didn't warn me about that. Michelle Croto, the business administrator. Diane Gurrow, the legal counsel. Superintendent Tom Ambrose. Tammy Mahoney, school board. James Jim Baker, school board. Taryn Lytle, school board. Dr. Pamela Brown, vice chair, school board. Peter Broderick, our chair of the school board. Annie Collier, our chair of the budget committee. Charles Swayze, vice chair, budget committee. Cheryl Gannon, budget committee. Jack Kozak, budget committee. James Jim Doggett, budget committee. And Sandra Rogers Oslo, budget committee. Mary Sear, budget committee. Let's see. I guess we're there. Are we? Okay. No. Yes. But I get more paper here. Okay. Now, as a first snafu of the evening, I just been brought to my attention. Most of you have one of these blue sheets. Matter of fact, you all should have one of these blue sheets. And if you find somebody that doesn't have one of these blue sheets, bring it to my attention, and we have 2 police officers who will deal with it rather summarily. But the interesting part of it, they should all start with K. And I'm told a few start with A. So when I say, if we happen to, and I've been given a petition for secret ballot on Articles 3, I think it is, and 5, if there's any amendments or change to those, we would be using these. So if I say we're going to use K, we all need to use K. So if anybody happens to have ones start with A, if we could swap those out, if you could just swap one for one, give them one with a K and A. We have a few. Okay, we got more. Yeah, well, more than. Oh boy. Okay. How to get off on a positive note, huh? Okay. Well, we'll get that. If you would go around and collect those and see that everybody has one with a K, then we'll be in good shape. Somehow that happened. Okay. And obviously, non-voters all up in the gallery there, would be up in the annex there, would be great. The balcony, that would be helpful. And naturally, I'll ask everybody to be reasonable and not get into personalities and things of that nature. And I don't see any reason why tonight we should anyway. And so, the Article 1 we're going to be voting on in March. So. There really isn't anything to do on that. And Article 2, general acceptance reports, shall reports of the school district agents, auditors, committees, or officers be chosen, be accepted and placed on file. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Now, who made the motion there?
Mr. Doggett.
Mr. Doggett, thank you. We just want to make sure the clerk has an accurate record here. And I'm sorry I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Rick Russman. I'm your moderator for the evening, and I appreciate your past support. Next year will be my 50th year, either town, school, or doing both. But somebody said I shouldn't say that because it makes me look a lot older than I probably am, I guess. But in any event, the operating budget. Number 3, shall the Sanborn Regional School District raise and appropriate an operating budget not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with a warrant or is amended by vote at the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $35,148,007. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $35,570,440 with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Sanborn Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA Chapter 40, 13, Roman Rule 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This warrant article does not include appropriations in any other warrant article. Recommended by the Budget Committee in favor, 7-0. Recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board in favor, 7-0. Okay. Do I have a motion? Ms. Scalia?
So moved.
Okay, second. Second, Mr. Swade. Ms. Scalia, would you come speak to your motion, please?
I'm going to pick it up. If I can get it out of there. There we go. Come on.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt. Lots of people don't know where to look, Mr. Moderator. Page 35 is the beginning of the warrant articles.
let this come up on the screen for you. Obviously, this is going to be a presentation of the Sanborn Regional School District School Budget Committee's recommendation on the budget for fiscal year 18-19, beginning July 1. Moving on to the second page, and these will be coming up for you in a moment. The Budget Committee's mission is to find a balance between the community's ability to pay with the educational needs of the district. And to identify the educational needs of the district, we talk with the school board, with the administration, with the leadership team, and we talk with community members and look at various statistics and so forth in order to look at what the ability to pay is. Could we get this up?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
There was something last year also, is that right?
This is what's known as a pregnant pause. Hopefully we can get this, are they going to, tech people are going to get this up here?
It'll just take a minute.
Wait.
Sorry about that.
I think what I'll do is move on to page 3, and rather than keep you all holding, the jointly proposed budget is $35,148,007. That's an increase of 0.6% or $210,043 over the current budget. When I say jointly, this is jointly proposed by the superintendent and leadership team, by the school board, and by the budget committee. The budget process has been that the superintendent brought forward, I'm on slide 4 now. The superintendent requested a budget of $34,937,964, which was a flat spending or virtually flat spending budget. The school board recommended then to the budget committee that we spend a little bit more than that, and we eventually worked back and forth, and we all came up with an agreement of how much it would be, and we all agreed on the $35,148,007. On March 13th, there always are two choices. There's the proposed budget, and then there's the default budget. The proposed budget is set in stone by the laws and the way that things are. The preliminary budget proposal is what we bring to you, and what comes out of the budget, out of this process tonight, is the budget that goes to the polls for the second choice in March. The default budget calculation is the current year's budget with added contracted expenses, removal of one-time expenses, and that comes up with the default budget for the next fiscal year. In this case, the voted budget for the current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 18, of $34,937,964, and I'm not going to read you all these numbers because you have them in front of you. Taking off all the special warrant articles for the Swayze Gym, ADA, and capital improvements, and then adding the contracted increases for the the teacher contracts and support staff contracts that we passed last year, the special ed and transportation contracts, the changes in debt service, the co-curricular activities that were added by the school board this year, and FICA and retirement for the school board secretary, we come up with that default budget. The default budget is higher than the current proposed budget by about 400-some thousand. It's an increase of 1.8% over the current operating budget. Here's a breakdown of what the proposed budget looks like. 68% of the budget is taken up by salary and benefits. 16% is services. 3% is supplies. 8% is debt service. And then everything else is 5%. One of the things the Budget Committee looks at is our communities. We have an aging population. We have small commercial property tax base, smaller than many surrounding communities. We have declining enrollments. The New Hampshire unemployment rate is currently pretty healthy. The county rate is 2.7%. We look at local poverty rates and the ability of people to pay. And we look at the needs of each town for fire stations, police, roads, town welfare, and so forth. The comparisons that we consider by members of the Budget Committee are based on some districts that we look at, which are plus or minus 25% of Sanborn's enrollment, plus Timberlane, because it's nearby, and the state. Exeter is not included because it's not a full pre-K through 12. We include all pre-K through 12 schools in this to make it as comparable as possible, and it's in Rockingham and nearby southern New Hampshire counties. This is not any formal list, it's just simply a list of schools which come as close as we can come to finding comparisons. We can see here that enrollment has been declining in a declining trend since 2011. The one that's kind of fuzzy is the current year's enrollment, and the projections are through the NASDAQ study down to 2022. So the enrollment is projected to continue to decline. Enrollment and staffing trends for the last 25 years show that student enrollment went up and up and up until about 2012-13, and then started to really plummet. The teachers and administration went up and up and up, but they really haven't been adjusted. The number in blue on the teachers shows the projected teachers for next year. There is a slight adjustment being made in this proposed budget. The student-teacher ratio that Sanborn has shows that we have a lot of teachers compared to surrounding schools. The cost per pupil is even higher than what used to be the highest in the area, and our cost per pupil is very high. The study of staff salaries, while we have these high cost per pupils and we have these declining enrollments and we have all these teachers, shows that we aren't paying our teachers very well. And this is a concern. We also did a study of property tax rates. And Kingston right now, for the local tax rate for schools, is in the 90th percentile. Newton is in the 96th percentile. Some possible budgetary impacts for the future. One of the things that the school board has in front of them is to define what our educational goals are. What is student success? The administration is new and wants to dive deeper into the financials, into the supplies, online subscriptions, books and periodicals, travel and stipends. That's the 3% and the 5% numbers that were on that pie chart. The superintendent wants more professional development with literacy coaching to reach to the strategic plan standard of 100% literacy by grade 3. The math results need improvement, and high school graduates better prepared. Long-term facilities planning has been put off and put off and put off, and there's deferred maintenance. There's now a NASDAQ study that's been ordered to come up with a plan for the future for our facilities. We have declining enrollments. And next year, we have both a support staff contract and a professional staff contract to be passed. Proposed additions this year include additional professional development, an administrative assistant for the business administrator and curriculum director. This is a new position, a part-time position. Some increase in technology, some increase in student services, and increased funding for substitutes, which has been very tough at the old rates. Items that were also identified during the budget process as needs for the district, but which are not being funded with taxpayer dollars, but are being funded with the Facilities Use Fund, which is fund from rental property, rental income for our use of our facilities. The gym floor refinishing, direct digital climate controls, NASDAQ facilities long-term planning study, and the technology switches are all being done without asking for taxpayer funding. These are the contractual increases for fiscal year 18-19. There were $987,800 in contractual increases. Voter-approved contract, the employee contract, with the salary increases, the retirement funding, and the employee health insurance premium funding with reserves, and the transportation contract are most of it. The superintendent proposed reductions of 7 teaching positions in the middle and high school. Attrition has so far provided for 4 for next fiscal year, and the balance will be determined in April as teachers put forward their plans for the future, and in some reduction in supplies. This budget proposal results in a property tax revenue increase need of $422,000. Now, the budget increase is about $210,000, but we're also getting a little less money from the state, so that makes up the $422,000. The Kingston impact will be 29 cents or $87 for a $300,000 home. In Newton, it'll be 41 cents per thousand or $123 for a $300,000 home. You can see that the default budgets are about, somewhat higher than that. The second voting session is on March 13th. The polls will be open from 8 till 8 at Newton Town Hall, and in Kingston at the Swayze Gym. And election of officials will take place at that time. In Kingston, for the school board, Larry Heath is running. For Newton School Board, Pamela Brown and Julia Fitzgerald are running. And for Kingston Budget Committee, Sandra Rogers Osterloh is running. For Newton Budget Committee, Annie Collier's running. And moderator, Rick Russman is running for his 51st year. That would be the 50th? Okay. Okay, are there any questions?
Good. So at this point, if you have any questions, concerns, discussion of the budget, yes, sir. And if you could come down to the mic, it'd be really great so that everybody can hear you. That it's a bigger hall than you think, so it's nice to have. But if you want to come down, if anybody wants to come down and line up or something, if you do, if you don't, that's okay too. Whatever.
My name's Dick Ventrilo.
Right into the mic, if you would. What
Dick
is it?
Ventrilo, Sergeant Woods in Newton.
Okay.
I have, I use...
Wait, hold on. She didn't. The clerk didn't get it. What is it, Dick?
Dick Ventrilo. Dick Ventrilo, okay.
Okay, thank you. From the.
I use your own mathematics in here, and I come out to around $21,000 a child, 1,601 enrollment, and using your budget numbers. Long division. The national average is about 9,300. You can all Google it if you want. Okay, and I'm saying, all right, we're not national average. Okay, but you got enrollments going down, costs going up. By the time it's zero, especially after next year's tax federal situation gets alleviated, we'll be broke by the time there's no more kids going to school. I mean, I'm being facetious, but can somebody somewhere around here talk to that sometime or blend a little bit of common sense into that when you're putting a budget together? And I've been responsible for budgets up to $3.5 million. And if I went to my boss with something like that, based on the tail wagging the dog, I would be out in the parking lot in a few minutes.
Okay.
So, I mean, somewhere in there has to be a happy medium between what I'm saying and what you folks are saying. And I really wish you'd start to think of that, especially going forward.
Okay,
That's
thank
all.
you very much. Any other comment, debate? Yes, sir.
Jamie Fitzpatrick from Newton.
Thank you.
I rise to support the proposed budget, but I do have some significant concerns with it. The reasons for the support, the new administration appears to be listening to all stakeholders, acknowledges that standardized testing actually has meaning and is valuable, a willingness to put metrics in place to improve our performance, and the ability to generate a relatively flat budget, so meeting the needs of both the students and the larger community. The new school board appears to have heard the voters and is acting accordingly. A willingness to focus on performance, achievements, and metrics, and working with the administration to generate a flat budget. The Budget Committee diligently reviewed and analyzed the spending, addressing the runaway spending that has been rampant in the prior years, and worked with the school board and the administration to get unanimous consent on one budgetary proposal. I consider these to be great achievements, and I support the budget for that reason. I thank the administration and our elected representatives on the school board and on the Budget Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yet.
Oh, but, right, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yet, I still have great concerns based on readily available data that can be found in the New Hampshire Department of Education. The achievement levels of our graduating seniors is dismal. When I was growing up, a 60 and below was an F. Our reading scores have gone from 75 in 2015 to 53 in 2017. Our math scores were 31 in 15, 28 in 16, and 37 in 17. Clearly, the experiment that we've embarked upon is not serving our kids, and they are paying the price for this experiment. I would suggest that a routine educational process where there are no deadlines, when tests can be retaken ad infinitum, is not generating real results on real tests, is not preparing our students for the real world. The results are not for lack of spending. Spending per student, Sanborn is about $17,600, 15% higher than the state average. Student-teacher ratio is 10.1, which is 14% lower than the state average. Now, I'll just point out that the student-teacher ratio is not class size, it's comparative number of teachers, students divided by the total number of teachers. Nonetheless, it's provided for comparative purposes by the state for valid purposes. I'll give you one comparison. Oyster River is a school that was listed in the list of comparables. They have about the same exact spending. Their reading is 87 versus Sanborn's 53, 64% improvement. Their math is 66 versus Sanborn's 37, a 78% improvement. They're achieving this with a ratio of 12.1, which is 20% higher than Sanborn, and they pay their teachers approximately $70,000 versus Sanborn's $50,000. Now, I know Sanborn is not directly comparable to Oyster River. I'm aware that there's demographic differences. That said, their methodology seems to provide better returns on investment than our methodology. And I'm not prepared to just assume that our students are not capable of matching their results regardless of demographic differences. And even if we don't match the results, we can learn from their process that's led to their success rather than following on the path that we're on that is yielding failing results. The data would suggest right-sizing the structure, increasing class sizes, and paying teachers more money seems to yield far better results than we're achieving presently. This is something the new administration, school board, and budget committee will need to tackle in the coming year. Another related structural issue has been mentioned just previously by the prior gentleman. The school enrollment is going down. From 2013, that was just shown as the high point, to the forecasted 2020, it's a 30% drop in enrollment. In the last 5 years, which is the most recent data available, student enrollment has dropped 2%. The head count for teachers student enrollment has dropped 10%. The number of teachers has dropped 2%, and the administration head count has increased by 5%. Again, this is something that the school committee, the school board, and the administration should be looking at in the coming year. So in conclusion, I do appreciate the hard work and effort that went to this budget. I do support the budget. I will vote for the budget. However, there's a great deal of work that needs to be done in the coming year. Continuing to spend more and more money each year pursuing programs that are not effective and do not improve achievement is not sustainable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jackie, did you want to?
My name is Jackie Clark, and I'm a Kingston resident. I'm going to address the budget, but first I'd like to share some information that affects many of our children. 1 in 5 people have a learning disability called dyslexia. By those statistics, 20% of this room has dyslexia to some degree. Student enrollments for this year are 1,601. That means that 320 students could have dyslexia in our district. I'd like you to take a second and think about the people in your life who struggle to write, spell, or read. I ask you to recognize that they could be dyslexic. Dyslexics don't lack cognitive ability. In fact, some of the most famous people you know are dyslexic. If you have an iPhone, you can thank Steve Jobs. He was dyslexic. My daughter Lacey, who's in 6th grade this year, isn't famous yet, but she's dyslexic too. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability that's neurological. meaning it's a problem in the brain that you don't outgrow. It's a common misconception that dyslexics simply read or write things backwards. If that is what you know about dyslexia, I encourage you to do some research of your own. It affects a person's ability to read, spell, write, and complete math skills. It also hinders their ability to organize thoughts or objects. But most importantly, it requires a level of specialized instruction and early intervention and identification that our district is currently ill-equipped to provide. Lacey's dyslexia wasn't identified by our district until just last year. In fact, it wasn't even identified by our district first. The day we sat down and told her that we knew why her schoolwork was so challenging, she laid her head on our dining room table and the tears rolled down her face. I thought we'd upset her, so I asked, "Are you sad about this?" I will never forget what she said next. "No, I'm relieved. I'm not stupid." I have the utmost respect for my daughter, so I won't go into detail about her struggles. But I can tell you that when dyslexia is not addressed, it can lead to bigger problems in the areas of behavior, self-esteem, and anxiety. And I believe we are seeing that right here in our district. The superintendent has a slide in his budget presentation that reads, "Mission Critical Budget Additions." He listed professional development as one of those items. I'm standing here to tell you that this is not a wish list item. This is at the root of our district's education issue. New Hampshire House Bill 1644, RSA 259, Section 1 and 2, also known as the state's dyslexia law, in summary, states that starting in 2017, every public school must screen every kindergartner and every first grader with the DIBELS to identify risk factors of dyslexia and related disorders. This needs to be completed by November 30th of each school year. If such screening took place by November, just a few months ago, and 1 in 5 children have dyslexia, then quite a few district parents should have been notified that their child presented with risk factors. The law also states that parents must be notified should they want further independent testing done at their own expense. According to that same law, by January 1st, those red flag students should have began receiving age-appropriate, evidence-based intervention by adequately trained staff. We've heard some comparisons tonight, and I'd like to give you one more. I'd like to bring your attention to something that has happened in the Rochester School District. Their administration came together to do something huge. They passed a budget that certifies 10 teachers per year in the area of dyslexia. Currently, they employ 40 certified teachers, each with over 100 hours of training, and the results of this have been astounding. Until proven otherwise, it's my understanding our district does not employ one teacher certified to this extent. I believe our teachers and support staff want to provide a great education for our children, and I believe that they want the best tools to do so. I have met with some of our administration, and I see how invested they are in our children. And I have faith that Mr. Ambrose has the best of intentions in effecting fiscally responsible, positive change for our students. I believe he deserves our trust and support in his efforts. I recently saw dyslexic actor Will Smith address an important topic. He said, "There's a difference between fault and responsibility. It doesn't matter whose fault it is that something is broken, if it's your responsibility to fix it. And that fault and responsibility do not go together." Every single day, dyslexia is a part of my family. And what we are going through as a family to get Lacey the education in which she has the legal right should never have to happen to another family. I encourage you to put your agenda aside for a second and ask yourself one question. What would you want to see if you or your child were in the 20%? This school district is our responsibility, and our responsibility is to fix it. I'm not suggesting that we inflate the school budget. I'm simply asking you to support the proposed budget and the professionals who work so hard to create it. Your vote would be a giant leap towards instilling trust and transparency in our district, a brighter future for our students, and the necessary support for our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Debate or discussion. This gentleman right here. Come right up. Okay, just tell us your name, if you would, so we can get
Hi,
it.
Larry Zurich, and I live in Newton. And during the presentation, I saw
Just
that
if we get the last name again, Larry.
Zurich, Z-U-R-E-K.
Thank you very much, Mr.
All right, during the presentation, it said the impact, the tax impact for Newton is going to be 41 cents a thousand. In the printout, it says 34 cents. So which is the real number, 41 or 34?
Can anybody answer that? Go ahead, Mr. Swayze.
No, 1 second.
I thought you had, no. Oh, no.
My printout says 41.
41 is what it says.
It says,
Oh, you're looking at the annual report.
right,
What page you on?
page 36.
We'll see if we can get you an answer to that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's your question, all right. If somebody has that or can address that.
34. It is 34.
It is 34. Okay. Apparently 41 is not
Okay,
correct.
so it's changed.
So it's 34 in total.
No, it was 34. I didn't realize that it said 41 on this presentation. I missed that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. It is 34. It was 34 before. I think that might have just been a typo on the presentation, so apologies for that.
34,
Okay, good.
tax, okay. Any other comment, debate, or discussion?
Gave me the number.
If there's not, and that's okay if there's not. Okay, yes, go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Heidi Granlund. I live in Kingston. And my question is, I noticed in the beginning, when we look at student enrollment, that we have 197 students here from Fremont. And I'm curious how that factors into this budget.
Okay, and it's Heidi, what is it?
It's Granlund. I'm Grand without a D.
Okay. Anybody want to comment on the Fremont, how that factors in?
Her question was what?
How does Fremont, 197 kids from Fremont factor into the budget?
That would be Michelle.
Is that correct? Is that your question?
I guess to be more specific, I'm curious, if we have that many students here from Fremont, I'm assuming, hopefully properly here, that Fremont contributes to our budget in some way.
They're all tuition.
So that's factored in prior to you asking for the budget that you have in front of us, yes or no?
Yes, the way it works is that we develop a full budget for supporting student needs, and then the revenues that come in offset that amount to determine the amount to be raised in taxes.
Okay.
So the tuition from Fremont reduces the amount to be raised in taxes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes, Ms. Schiller.
Where can we get a copy of the slides you all used?
They are online, or they will be posted online.
Thank you.
I thought they all had them.
Further
No, they're not outside.
comment, debate, or discussion?
I'll give you mine.
If there is not, if this will appear on the ballot as printed, and we'll move on to Article 4. Shall, yes.
I hope you, there we go. Make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article number 3.
Yes. Okay, motion's been made to restrict reconsideration of this article. What that means, for those of you who have not been here before, it means that you can't, somebody goes home, goes to sleep and whatever, and they leave here right away, you can't bring it back for changing it and all that stuff. So if you vote yes on to restrict reconsideration of this article, that's the end of it. We don't touch it again this evening. Okay, if you vote no, then technically you could touch it again. And if there's no objection, I'm going to do that on a voice vote on the motion to reconsider, if that's okay with you. I think that would be appropriate. Okay, it's not an amendment, it's just strictly a motion to reconsider. So all those in favor do not want to reconsider this article again, and they want to restrict reconsideration of it, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's pretty clear. We will not be visiting that again. Okay, Article 4, property lease arrangement. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District authorize the school board to enter into a long-term lease with the Seacoast Learning Collaborative for district property located at 178 Main Street and designated as a portion of the tax map R34, Lot 17, and further to authorize the school board to negotiate the terms and conditions of the lease and take any other action necessary to carry out this vote. Do I have a motion? Mr. Broderick.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Make a motion.
You have the motion first.
Motion, my mistake, you're right.
Motion?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Scott. If you would like to speak to your motion, let's go ahead.
Yeah,
Ms. Scott.
it's pretty straightforward. We've got an organization that's interested in leasing the seminary area. It'd be the brick building, used to be English and Science Wing, and I believe the cafeteria, not the cafeteria, the gym is part of that. We just want your permission to negotiate with them. We're going to have the lawyers, we're going to have the real estate people, we'll do all that. So there's no secret to it. It's someone's interested in leasing it, but we need your permission to say, yeah, we can talk to them. And if the deal is good for Sanborn, we'll go forward with it. So if you have any questions, there's not an awful lot to it. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, any questions on this article? If there are not, this article will appear on the ballot as printed. Article number 5, Sanborn Ice Hockey Team, submitted by petition on behalf of the Sanborn Ice Hockey Team Board and registered voters of Kingston and Newton. Shall the Sanborn Regional School District raise and appropriate the sum of $10,335 to partially fund the high school hockey team. These funds will be used to cover the same costs that are funded for any other funded team in the district. These costs include away game transportation, providing coaching staff funds, game official fees, and athletic dues/fees. The hockey team is now in its 6th season, 4th playing varsity. All seasons thus far have been funded solely through the Hockey Boosters Club fundraising. This article provides funding for varsity ice hockey with an additional $14,000 of funding to come from the Sanborn Ice Hockey Boosters Club. Not recommended by the Budget Committee, 7-0, and is not recommended by the Sanborn Regional School Board. 1 in favor, 4 were opposed to recommending that. So, do I have a motion here? Sir? Motion? You adopt the motion?
Yes, I'd like to move.
What is your name?
John LeBlanc from Kingston.
Okay, second? Okay. Speak to your motion, sir, if you'd like.
So I'm a current member of the Sanborn Ice Hockey Boosters organization. As was kind of written in the article, we've been self-funding an ice hockey team that's been operating under the NHIAA rules at Sanborn High School. So we're a fully recognized program, fielding about 20 to 22 student athletes every year for the last 6 years. Our first 2 years were junior varsity level, and our last 4 years have been at the varsity level. I guess what the Boosters Club is facing is a constant fundraising battle every year, and that's basically every month, we're either planning a new fundraiser or we're operating and executing on an existing fundraiser that we've planned. And raising $24,000 per year is a difficult task, but we've been able to maintain that over the past several years. And the Boosters Club is looking to have the voters of the district hopefully support raising $10,000, approximately $10,335, to pay for the normal athletic costs associated with running an athletic program at the high school, which would include transportation to games, which would include referee fees, which would include paying the coaches, which are required to have stipends under the collective bargaining agreements that currently the Boosters organization has to fundraise to do those things, including uniforms and so forth. What the Boosters will continue to do, or would like to continue to do if this is passed, is to continue to pay for the ice time, since we realize that ice hockey is an expensive sport when you start to factor in the ice time. That if you know anything about hockey, it's about $300 per hour. So we have to raise that money in addition to all these other funds. And one of the reasons why we've brought this forward for the second time is we're a little bit concerned that the fundraising is going to continue to be more difficult, and the program, in my opinion, could suffer and possibly fold if we don't get this passed. So that's, I guess, the reason why we brought it forward. I hope the voters at 1 cent per thousand, if you have a $300,000 house, you're talking about a $3 bill. A $400,000 house, a $4 bill. Hopefully, athletics are very important to the student, to producing well-rounded students out of the Sanborn High School. And I hope that the voters can support this. Thank you.
Okay. Further comment? A discussion? Further comment, debate, discussion? Yes, sir. Gentleman right here.
It's not quite what I came here for. My name's Robert Pellegrino. I'm from Kingston. I am actually in favor of that, having played pro hockey myself. I know it's a good program for kids, especially with our drug addiction around, especially in this area, that it would be a good program for kids to keep them out of trouble. And that's about all I have to say. But it was a great experience. The camaraderie with anybody who plays sports. Hockey isn't an expensive sport, but it is worth it to the community.
Okay, thank you. Further debate or discussion? Mr. Schiller.
I'm curious as to why both the Budget Committee and the Board are against this.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mr. Doggett. And then, Ms. Gannon, I did not forget you, as I usually do.
I'm just going to answer the last question. When hockey originally came before the school board 6 years ago, we were informed that this would always be a private organization, that they would never come and request funds from the school district. And I was the person who specifically said, never means never. So are you saying that you're always going to be funding this because, they want to use the Sanborn name, but not have to follow any of the Sanborn requirements. And they said, yes, we will never come before the school district and ask for a penny.
Okay.
Now they're asking for $10,000. Very soon it'll become $25,000, and it will just continue to escalate because they're at the same time we're speaking about adding a JV team and then a feeder team. And I'm sorry, there are certain other priorities that we have, such as children with dyslexia. They have to come first before, hockey.
Thank you. Ms. Gannon.
I have a question about the $10,335. Is that being asked just for this budget, or is the expectation that that amount will be included in subsequent budgets?
Okay.
From the Boosters Club point of view, we hope that it becomes permanent. The way it's worded, it doesn't preclude the administration from deciding that that's something that could be cut in the future, because that can always occur, since they control it. I mean, whether the voters say, yes, fund it this year, that doesn't mean that the subsequent years that the administration could make that decision that $10,000 needs to be spent elsewhere. So, as a member of the Boosters, I hope so, because takes $10,000 off of the amount that we need to raise every single year and makes it a much easier hill to climb. Otherwise, we have these nickel and dime fundraisers all the time, and like I said, that's part of the concern. Is it possible I could at least speak to the assurance that was made at the beginning of the program beginning 6 years ago?
What would you like to do? Go ahead.
Well, I guess, so none of the current board members, not that this is a reason, but none of the current board members were at that meeting or on the board at that time that it was presented to the school board, where an assurance was made that the group would not come back and ask for funding. We aren't asking the funding of the school. We are asking the funding from the voters. And I just want to, I guess, say that I've reviewed the minutes from that meeting, and I see no assurance that was made specifically. I can't say it wasn't made because the minutes aren't always complete from those meetings. But I just want to say that from the current board's perspective, we didn't make that promise. That was made by someone else, and that's all.
Okay. Further comment, debated, discussion. Gentlemen up here, yes. Go ahead.
Barry Gluck from Newton. I actually didn't plan on getting up and talking to this issue, but I guess I would ask, why is it relevant if 7 or 8 years ago someone said something about, the point is a presentation was made about the value of funding the hockey program, and I think it should be judged on the merits and the value of what it offers the students. And at 1 cent per thousand to be able to continue in a hockey program, I'm wondering why it's relevant, because you interpreted that someone may have said something to you about whether this would ever show up.
All right, well,
like
we don't have
8 years ago. It's just judge it on its merits.
Okay, all right, got it. Okay, other comments about the discussion? Yes,
Lisa
ma'am.
Gagne, Newton. I just want to say that, I'm very
Could I just have
impressed.
the last name again? I'm sorry.
Gagne?
How do you spell that?
Gonyer. Thank you.
Thank you, Candy.
First, I want to say I am very impressed. Compared to last year, I expected to walk in and still see presentations on the overhead up here. So to be on the last article is excellent. Second, I do also want to say that I appreciate the fact that this is a separate warrant article and it's not built into the budget, because this is going to give the voters the opportunity to say yay or nay. And I would like to see it be another warrant article next year for the same reason. But I absolutely agree. Let the voters decide if it's something they want to support.
Okay,
Thank you.
Further discussion or debate? If there is none, this will appear as it's printed on the ballot that we vote for. Is there any other business that needs to come before the meeting tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Okay, second? Second. All those in favor of adjourning, signify so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you very much.